Whenever you're ready.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Potikitisu. I want to thank all of you for attending this program tonight, and I hope that you found it very inspiring and useful. So with that, I am the advisor of the ECON Club, and I would like to pass it to Dr. Philip Siriani to introduce himself.
Hey, everyone. Good to see everyone here. We've got a good crowd tonight. Thanks to everyone for joining, and thanks especially to our panelists for taking the time out of their busy schedule to join us for this event tonight. It's good to see you all. It's been a few years, and I'm happy to see that you're all in positions now in employment, and look forward to hearing from you tonight. So rather than me sort of reading bios or anything like that, I think it would be best to just have the panelists introduce themselves at this point. So if you want to say when you graduated and your current position, something about yourself, that would be great. So we'll start with Serina Aridi.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here. It's good to see so many faces. So I graduated back in 2019. I was a business econ major with a concentration in finance, and currently I'm an associate at JP Morgan. I work in foreign exchange and I work in sales support, and I cover institutional foreign exchange and macro sales. And I just got promoted, so very happy about that. But I worked in previously wealth management and the corporate sector.
Great. Congratulations on your promotion. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Serena. Our second panelist is Anthony Messina.
Hey, everyone. Can you hear me fine?
We can.
All right. I graduated in 2019 with Serena, I think with a couple of us as well. I was an econ major. I also had a dual degree in psychology, so I graduated with both there. I started working at Estee Lauder in IT finance when I first graduated, and then throughout COVID, I actually found Amerisave Mortgage. So they're one of the largest corporations in America for mortgages. And I originally started on the processing end with them, but eventually got promoted to doing the sales. So right now I'm a loan originator for them. So helping out people in refinancing, buying homes, etc.
Excellent. Good to see you, Anthony. Our third panelist is Melissa Voyer, also at JP Morgan.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Yes, I graduated from Oneonta in 2018. I was a business economics major with a concentration in finance, and I went right to JP Morgan. I've been there for about 3.5 years now. I've been on my current team for about 2 years, which is called the Community and Business Development Team. So my team kind of has two sides to it. It has the community side, which is we have 150 community managers across the nation who are out in the communities trying to make a difference and really trying to educate individuals about financial health, which is like your basic money management skills, how to save more, spend less, what credit is, all of that. And then my side of the house is called business development, which develops the strategy for all of those community managers to go out in the field. So we really think about the different business opportunities and ways we can make revenue for the bank using these community managers.
Great. Thanks, Melissa. Good to see you. And last but not least, Justin Whitney, who I worked with on senior seminar project and had in several classes as well. Welcome back, Justin.
Hey, thank you for having me. And yeah, it's great to see everybody here. So I graduated in 2019 with Anthony and Serena, and I was classmates with all of them. I originally started with an economics major, and I also had a minor in computer science. Was interested in both of those subjects. So when I graduated, I joined F&D Reports Credit and Tell. We provide financial advice and credit risk solutions to our clients. We do things such as we have an in-house team of analysts provide financial advice, as well as we have the product managers who work with the IT developers to build financial products for our clients. And so I originally came in as a junior analyst with the intention of going the finance route and becoming an analyst one day, writing quarterly reports and such. But I had more of an interest on the business and development technology side of it. So I slowly transitioned into that and am now working as a product manager for the company. And and I'm looking forward to talking more about that later on.
All right, thanks, Justin, and thanks, everyone. We look forward to hearing from you all too tonight. So now I will turn it over to Alexa Laska, the president of the Economics Club, who will introduce the e-board and get our program going tonight.
Sounds great, thank you. So as Dr. Siriani said, my name is Alexa. I'm the Economics Club president. Our advisor is Dr. K, which is absolutely wonderful. We love working with him. Logan Conti is our vice president. Justin Almanzar is our secretary. Noah Davis is our PR chair. Alex Borbis is our treasurer. And somebody yell at me if I didn't say someone's name, but there's only 5 of us last I knew. So tonight we have a couple of questions prepared for each panelist. I will ask the first question to Anthony. Noah will ask the second question to Melissa. Justin Almanzar will ask the next question to Serina, and then Logan will ask the fourth question to Justin Whitney. We'll continue in that order, kind of cycling through. So it'll be one question for each of you in 3 rounds. And then from there, it becomes open Q&A with audience members. So we highly encourage you to participate. And a note to the audience, if your name on here is not the same thing as in the Oneonta registry, please message Alex Borbis, who's going to manage our chat, and or Michelle Hansen, who is in this call. We are looking to have about 30 to 40 minutes of active Q&A, and then from there, 10 minutes of open discussion by the end of it. But I think that covers our bases. And as long as I haven't forgotten anything for this part, I did forget something for this part. So this is our first of 3 events for this semester. The next one will be March 3rd. The one after that will be April 7th. And then we actually have a special edition next week, Wednesday, 3 to 5 in the Waterfront Room with President Cardea, the Provost Dr. Lee, and Dr. Bernadette Tiapo. But with no further ado, I think that covers our bases. Anthony, are you ready for the first question? Okay. Yep. So my first question to you is, what obstacles did you overcome to get to where you are today in your career?
Thank you, Alexa. I think one of the biggest things, kind of rooting back to growing up, I was always a little bit shy, a little bit on the shyer side and kind of timid in a lot of things that I did, mainly for speaking out and engaging in, being in front of people, such as this. So I think when I got to college, it was definitely a challenge to really get in front and really make do for what I am as an individual. So the biggest obstacles I had to overcome was, social anxiety, stuff like that. And to what I did was really just engage yourself in extracurriculars, really, setting yourself in that discomfort to eventually get where I was. So it just took many years of, finally getting to that comfort spot to where once you, even going on interviews to be comfortable and actually sell yourself enough to really step in front of people.
That's awesome. Thank you. Very encouraging.
All right, question for Melissa. What's one thing you wish someone told you when you graduated college?
Great question. I think something I wish I knew when I started out working professionally is that it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to ask a lot of them. I remember when I first started working, I was so afraid to ask a question. I felt like, well, we talked about this yesterday. I was already supposed to know it. What if, they think I'm not capable because I keep asking all these questions? And I found I just made the process harder for myself. So I was spending so much time on things, trying to figure them out on my own, not willing to raise my hand because I was trying to impress all the time. But really, it's okay to show that you are interested and that you have these questions, and asking others questions is a really great way for them to learn as well. So not only do you benefit, but the person who's able to explain it to you, it's for their benefit too. So I definitely wouldn't be afraid to raise your hand.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hello, Serena. And the first question for you, how did you utilize your internship experience to receive a full-time offer at the firm for post-graduation?
So my internship was in risk and control in the treasury sector. And to be honest with you, I had no idea what that was. Now, I do want to echo what Melissa said about asking questions. That is important, but it's also important to be resourceful. So I know my manager was busy. So instead of going out and asking her what this is and what that is, anything that I could actually look up or any resources that I could use, I use them. And I think that's important. It's an important skill set to have. It's like, okay, yes, where do I draw the line between asking questions and seeking out the answers myself? Secondly, whenever I had a task, I would always jot down everything I did. So even outside of the task that I was asked to do, if I networked with somebody, if I attended some type of seminar, if I was going out and seeking information on my own, put it all together and just take note of it. So that way, when my manager asked herself, what did Serina do throughout her internship? I already had everything prepared for her. I literally laid out everything I did throughout my internship, put it into a one-page slide. And at the end of the internship, I gave it to her and said, here's the synopsis of what I did throughout my internship. And I think that really helped her to say, okay, well, now I can see it in front of me. Does this person deserve to have an offer at the firm? And making your manager's life easier, I think, is a great way to really hone in that internship experience.
Phenomenal. Thank you. That's a great idea.
Okay, next question. How feasible is it to transition into a role or position in which subjects differ from your college major?
Thank you for the question. So like I said in the beginning of my introduction, I had these two interests in college. I majored in economics and I minored in computer science. So when I transitioned into my starting role at this company and I started, getting my day-to-day workflow and learning more about their operations, I realized a lot of what they did heavily depended on their IT development and their, computer science and programming ability. So I had that interest and I saw that there was kind of like a need there, a need for like more resources and for more people to like chime in and help out. So I just slowly started like inching my way into there while keeping up with my current responsibilities. And then it got to the point where I was like so heavily involved in that side of the business that my like eventual promotion to product manager from a junior analyst, just kind of happened naturally. So I started doing the responsibilities of that job before I was actually officially in that position. And I kind of always wanted to go into this field, and I was a little worried that my, lack of background besides just the minor in computer science and the interest and passion for the subject would be enough. But I think if you for me, I just started doing the work that I saw that I could, and ask, like Serina said and Melissa said before, asking questions, trying to learn as much as I can. And eventually I got involved enough where I was able to make that leap.
Great, thank you.
All right. There's a quick question in the chat, and I think it is directed towards Justin, so I'm going to pause here for a second. So the chat does say, I have a quick question. This is from Teresa. How did you know that you wanted to go into business economics? So maybe not for Justin because you were an economics major, but anyone who can say that you've decided on your major, how did you make that decision?
I guess I can answer that. I actually have a pretty interesting, so I actually added my economic degree going into junior year. So I started with psychology my first 2 years and wanted to go into clinical. I thought that was something that I had a passion for, and just obviously life takes its turns. And I actually watched The Big Short right before junior year started, and that's kind of what did it. I did some research into the major and I just went ahead and jumped in my junior year, and then really just had a passion for it. I mean, just loved everything that had with the models and the graphs, and just really clicked for me. And I'm just glad I did. So I guess at the end of the day too, a big thing I can say is don't be afraid to try something new. I know some people like go in with a certain mindset, but you never know, what you're going to like until you actually try it.
Absolutely. I think that was an awesome response. If no one else wants to chime in, I'm going to give it a second. I have another question for Anthony. Oh, there's more questions in the chat. This is awesome. Because I see that we're getting to a lot of questions in the chat and they tend to be general, I'm gonna kind of executive move here. We're gonna go through the next 2 or 3 questions a person, and then we will use this as open forum afterwards, if that's okay with everyone. No major objection. I can see Dr. K nodding his head. That's my seal of approval. Awesome. So my next question is for Anthony, and I think it will resonate with a lot of upperclassmen in here and a lot of students who are unsure about their major in their program. But I'm wondering what you think the most important things you can do now as a student are as you prepare for the workforce and graduation, and what is next.
Awesome. Yeah. So I know, kind of going back to what I was saying too, be open to opportunities. So really, once I started junior and senior year, I started engaging in just numerous amount of things. I was a teacher's assistant. I did a couple internships, a couple different research papers. I was even RA. So I really did a lot to really see what I wanted to do. And I know towards the end, as for the actual work world, I didn't know exactly what I was going into yet. So I think the most important thing, like I said, just keep an open mindset. If you know kind of a direction that you want to go in, just jump in. I mean, I graduated college not having a job lined up just yet. And, that did bring a lot of stress, but at the end of the day, I mean, it is going to work out for the better, as long as you keep putting the work in, and at the end of the day, it's, everything that you want.
I think that's great advice. Thank you so much.
Next question is for Melissa. What was it like working for such a large organization, and do you ever wish you were somewhere smaller?
Great question, considering JP Morgan is about 270,000 employees worldwide. So it's a very, very big company. And I actually did a program right after school with JP Morgan called the Corporate Analyst Development Program. Serina did the same program as I did, where it's 3 8-month rotations across the firm. So since I've been here a little shy of 4 years, I've been on 4 teams within the bank. And I can say each team has its own personality, its own culture, and each one was different from the one before. So working for a big organization is almost like working for a bunch of little ones under one roof. So it's very interesting, very unique to see how the dynamic can change from team to team. And I remember being so surprised. It was almost like a culture shock when I first switched from my first team, which was so young and fun, and we would get happy hour. And, it was a great work environment, to my second team that was more structured and very serious. And you very rarely talked about your weekends or any personal details. It was, foot down, work hard all day. So it's very interesting to see the different dynamics, and it really helps me figure out what I like and what I don't like in a team and what I'm looking for moving forward. As if I ever wish I worked for a smaller organization all the time. I think sometimes I feel like I get lost in such a big sea of people, and I sometimes feel like I might not be making as much impact as I could be if I were at a smaller firm. But then I also think about how many people I'm able to reach because I work for such a well-known, established organization. So it has its pros and cons, and I'm sure at some point I will test the other side and see what it's like. And who knows, maybe I'll like it more, maybe I'll like it less.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Hello again, Serina. What did you learn serving in the Student Association at Oneonta that has helped you succeed in the professional world?
So in the Student Association, what I remember is a lot of networking events. There are always events, alumni were coming to campus, we were doing luncheons, and I always made it a point to attend those. And the reason being is because I know you guys probably hear it all the time, but networking really is huge. It's some people, they always say it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And I think that was the number one skill that really helped me, was networking and building relationships. And I took that forward into my role at JP Morgan. Networking is not just going about and meeting people and adding them on LinkedIn. It's about also maintaining that relationship. It's one thing to just build a relationship with somebody, just very surface, but here and there, like, okay, hey, I met this person. How about I follow up and send them an email and meet them, or go out for coffee? And I know this is also a pre-COVID world, but when you guys, as things progress and you're meeting people, and that would, you know, you have that connection, go out and ask them to, you know, have a coffee with you, go ask them to lunch. Those things are huge. Networking it's huge. And I think that was the number one thing from the student association. And then also planning and organizing events. I was on the e-board for it. So that organization and those skills that you learn just from like having to take on a leadership role helped me right now in my job as we currently speak. It's still helping me today.
Thank you very much. Very relevant.
Next question for Justin. Disadvantages of working for a small organization.
So this kind of goes off of some other questions that were asked here too. So my company is a lot smaller than JP Morgan. We have less than 100 employees. And, you know, when I was at Oneonta, I did an internship with ABM. They were a much larger company and publicly traded. So I would commute to the city every day. And, you know, there were so many people there that I never had the opportunity to meet because it was just so large. And what I liked about it was I liked the structure of how the company worked. The kind of workflow and procedures in place there were kind of more cemented. So I feel like on the day-to-day, I knew kind of what to expect and what I was getting into. But the disadvantage were because it was so large that I felt like within my own company, I had maybe less influence on our processes or the kind of things we are engaging with. Versus now where my company's really small, I know everyone there, and I think my voice carries a little more weight because it is so much smaller. And when I first started, you know, joining, they kind of gave me the freedom and flexibility to try out different things and figure out what I liked, figure out how I could add value in a way that I enjoyed. But I would say, kind of going back to what I said about ABM, you know, it's a little less structured in that environment. I think I'm someone who thrives with a little more structure, and but you know, they're also good. There's some good that comes from that. So you know, I don't know if I will be with a small company for the rest of my life. I could definitely see myself working at a large company one day, but right now, I think this is a good place for me to be in with my career.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, so my last really structured question for Anthony. So you've had a lot of really cool experiences from your time at Oneonta. And for reference, for everyone who's on the panel and in the audience, we go into the panelists' LinkedIns and we go into like reports from the dean and everyone else just to see like, oh, someone did something really cool. So I'm wondering which of your experiences and projects you believe led you to earn Outstanding Senior in the Economics Department and your notable involvement and award for the Psychology Department, among all of the other really cool things that you did while you were here.
Yeah, and then kind of going back to what I was saying before, is just everything kind of combined into one. So when I came in as a freshman, I really just stuck to wrestling. I was on the wrestling team at Oneonta, and I kind of really just did that, you know, treated that as if my studies in my school. And then once junior year and senior year came, that's when I really started broadening the extracurriculars that I wanted to do. So I think at the end of the day, it's just everything that, you know, you could do to really, you know, mold yourself as an individual, getting in front of people. Like I said, that was my weak point, is really standing out and speaking in front of people like I'm doing right now. So I think the reason I got that award was because I finally gained that confidence in myself to know, okay, I can do this. You know, the studies, they came just because, and the grades came because I did put in the effort to get those grades. So I really just kept going. I utilized my classmates. We all really did pretty well in terms of the grades. But as for the awards that I got, I think it was the hard work and dedication I put into all that extracurricular work that really shaped me as a person.
Absolutely, that's awesome. And that's a really great point about just character building too while you're here. So congratulations to you again.
Thank you.
And thank you.
All right, last question for Melissa. In just a few years, you become a senior associate. I just want to know what you've learned in this role and what have you taken from your previous roles at JP Morgan and Chase, and what are your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, so each role will teach you something different about yourself, whether it's you learn a new soft skill or a hard skill, or you meet new people, or you tried something and you really liked it or you didn't like it. for me, it was much easier to find out what I didn't like versus what I did like. So I learned that I really like strategy, but I need more than just strategy. I need strategy and execution. So I want to see whatever project I'm doing all the way through the end versus just being on a strategy team where you develop the strategy and pass it off to someone else. So I learned that in my second role. In my role I'm in now, I'm trying to learn about my leadership abilities. So I'm very new in the sense of being a leader on my team. I'm, the lowest member right now, but I'm trying to expose myself to new opportunity and responsibility that will give me these skills that I need to get to further my career. So it's learning things about yourself. I took a leadership class so I could figure that out. And, they have the Myers-Briggs test and things like that. So you can learn more about yourself. It's not necessarily what you just learn from your manager or these tactical skills that you learn, but it's also about what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, and what you like and what you don't like. So definitely keep an eye out for things like that, because no role you'll ever be in will be permanent. So you can always think about, finding those things that are deal breakers for you and what you really like and that suit you and that fit with your character traits and whatever you're looking for. So I think the biggest thing to take away is just to be patient with the whole process as well, and just, really focus on yourself and how you can become a better employee and what skills you need to get there.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
All right, Serina. And the last question. Which experiences in your professional or academic history have helped you most in your role as an analyst at JP Morgan, excluding your summer internship the year prior?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you a quick story. When I interviewed, we had our behavioral interview, soft skills, and then technical. And during my technical interview, they said, walk me through an analysis you did and what the conclusion was from it. And my mind immediately went to my top 3 classes: financial accounting, international finance, and organizational behavior. And I had done a report in international finance and org behavior on Apple. And so I knew this company so well. I in fact, I kind of used the same information in both reports, but that's beside the point. So I had seen Apple's financial statements and I knew them pretty well. And I analyzed and I said, well, walking through the statements, they have a lot of cash on hand, but they're also issuing debt. So in a situation like this, why would somebody issue debt when they have cash? And through analysis, the analysis that I gave them was they have a lot of tax avoidance things that they do, right? And issuing debt allows you to report. Help me out here, guys. I'm blanking. What does it allow you to report? Interest expense, right? And when you report interest expense, it lowers your net income. And with a lower net income, you pay less taxes. And this was the analysis that I gave on the interview. And it tied in my academic history in those 3 classes. It's one thing to know something just from looking at a financial statement, but what is the analysis part of it, which I learned from international finance, and learning about the company itself came from organizational behavior. So that really was a point where I got to utilize the knowledge that I learned in school in the real world. And then outside of the interview, just as Mel said before, in previous roles at JP Morgan, in the program that we were in, we got to be in, I had 3 different teams. And I learned a lot about myself, as Mel said too. You learn about what you like and what you don't like. So when I worked in wealth management, I thought it was so glamorous. I thought the idea of it was really, cool. You work in wealth management. But what I learned is I like having a lot of channels of communication and a lot of, I need to be free. I need to be I felt too structured. I felt like I don't have a team to collaborate with. I felt like it was just very foot down, go to work, get your job done. But I think I believe in work-life balance, and being in the role that I'm in now with the team that I'm with, I got to experience that more. I work with a lot of people. I work with traders. I work with sales. I work with everybody on my side of the realm, and the culture is much more lax. So that was a professional experience kind of telling me what road to go down into the role that I wanted to choose permanently outside of the program. And permanence, I mean, I use that word lightly, but it helped influence the role that I took after the program. So I would say those were the academic parts and those were the professional parts.
Thank you very much. That was a beautiful tie-in.
And the last question for Justin. What was it like to participate in the semifinals during your time in Fed Challenge? And what ways do you apply this course to your career?
So the Fed Challenge was an amazing class. That was probably one of the highlights of my entire college experience. It was really great to work with Dr. Story, and I made a lot of friends in that class. It was really cool because we got to touch on so many day-to-day real topics, and we got to analyze the economy in real time and make predictions for what the future is going to be like, and kind of put your perspective in the Federal Reserve. And I don't necessarily apply that to my day-to-day or everything I do at my job, or especially when I first started, but it definitely gave me a really good background in just the overall economy and how that relates to kind of individual factors that might affect my clients' day-to-day business. So I think what I really liked about it was I learned so much, and it did challenge me to improve my public speaking. But also, it was a bit of pressure because, I was part of a group that was representing the school, and there's an added weight there, especially the fact that if we made it to semis, everybody in the class would get an A. So you kind of had that burden on your shoulder. But it definitely pushed and challenged me to prepare a little more, work harder, outside of the class. I would watch YouTube videos day to day, just learning about, stocks, the economy, and how, these things might relate to each other. So it definitely gave me a really, really good background. It was a great thing to have on my resume when I was interviewing for jobs and internships. And I think just an event like that, where you're working with a team to represent your school, although it's a lot of pressure, and it's also was probably one of the most fun things I did in college as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to our panelists for answering the couple questions that we prepared. Story is wonderful in the chat here. Let's not forget Mel, of course. But I love your shout outs. It's awesome. I do have one final question for each of the panelists in the same order that we spoke. So Anthony, then Melissa, then Serena, then Justin. That we're going to use as kind of like our springboard for going into the open Q&A, which is going to be facilitated by Alex. But my question is, what was your senior seminar project? Who advised it? And what was it like to go through senior seminar? This is something that is not super widely spoken about, so we'd like to highlight it in this particular event. So starting with Anthony.
Yeah, so my paper was the impact of adverse childhood experiences on socioeconomic prosperity. A little bit of a mouthful, but my advisor was Dr. K, and I actually was bouncing around between topics. I probably changed maybe 3 or 4 times on what I wanted to do. I actually, in my study, it's called the ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences. It was actually a study that was done for children that grew up with, like it says, adverse childhood experiences such as abuse and verbal abuse, stuff like that. And I actually got the idea from Rebecca Harrington in the health center because I was an intern for her. So I molded that with this economic prosperity. And I actually found in a data set that I use in my study that for 4 years, they ran that study. So it just kind of worked out. And after, digging in, doing the research, I found that it just kind of molded well together. And then obviously my experience with Dr. K was awesome. We, met up a lot and really kind of sat down to perfect the paper and really make it how I'd like to really go about it and talk about it.
Amazing. That's an awesome project. One that I'm looking forward to following up on.
If you have questions, you can reach out.
Of course, I plan to, don't worry. It's the same question. The next person on our list is Melissa.
Thank you. So my paper was on the relationship between total capacity utilization and inflation, which I know is super exciting. And I worked with Dr. Story, and my experience was super exciting and also stressful, if I'm being honest. Exciting in that it was so cool to be doing something that I had never done before, to be working with a professor on a paper. And we even kept it going after and tried to get it published, and I took it to a conference where I presented my research against a bunch of other college students as sort of a competition. So that part was really exciting. The stressful piece was, I think, Story and I submitted my paper like 2 minutes before the deadline. So that's a memory I will have forever of trying to get that paper in. But it was a really great experience. I think that, in similar with Fed Challenge that we were just talking about, those real life experiences where you're doing something in the classroom that you can relate to your real life really makes an impact. So I think having that, like that real life experience of doing something other than just taking a test or a quiz was really great.
That's awesome. And I don't know if you saw it in the chat or if other people missed it in the chat, but this piece was published. So again, huge props. Winning Fed Challenge team, published piece. She's doing it all. Same question now for Serina.
So my paper was macroeconomic impacts on initial public offerings. My advisor was Dr. Story, and my experience was honestly great. I think it's because Story made it she's just easy to work with. She's awesome. And I think I just really liked the topic that I was doing. It honed in that finance piece of it and honed in the economics piece. So it tied in my interests, and I loved presenting it. I think the research part was the actual hardest part. Actually, gathering the data was the hardest part because I had to go through like different platforms for it. That part was hard, but otherwise it was. I'm grateful for that experience for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so glad that so far we've had everyone really enjoying their time. And last and certainly not least, another former Econ Club president. Same question for Justin.
So my research question for my paper was severance tax and how that affected renewable energy production. And I was looking at all 50 states. So a severance tax is a tax on non-renewable energy production resources. So I wanted to see, I had a very large interest in environmental economics. I had taken 4 classes with Dr. Siriani throughout my time there. So it was kind of a no-brainer to choose him to be my advisor and do an environmental question. And basically, a severance tax is a tax that we wanted to explore basically, as we head to our future with less reliable, has less reliance on oil and non-renewable resources, how can we encourage that transition, and how can we get programs that would basically move us towards a more renewable society? So I really liked working with Dr. Siriani, but I would say the biggest complaint I had about my question in particular was, in the end, there was no correlation that I could prove between the severance tax and renewable energy. So, when everybody's presenting, I feel like I saw everyone come out with all of these really interesting theories that they were able to prove with their data set, whereas with my theory kind of didn't really amount to being able to prove something like prove any type of policy recommendation. But I would say also that one of the struggles I had was using Stata. So that is a very important program that you're going to have to use for that class, as well as some other economic classes you might take. And that was kind of challenging for me. So going back in time, I think I would spend more time learning how to utilize that better. But Dr. Siriani was really helpful with guiding me through that. So I would definitely say, lean on your advisors, make the time to, take advantage of their knowledge and expertise, and that will only add to your paper, and you'll end up learning so much out of it.
Awesome advice. Amazing responses. Thank you again to our panelists. At this point, I'm going to pass it over to Alex, who is going to go down the list in the chat, and he's going to ask the questions that are being put in there. Please utilize the chat function. We're going to go in the order that they were submitted. You guys did some really awesome work so far, and I can't wait to hear what the advice is relating to the rest of our questions.
Okay, so the first question that I have, and this question can go out to any of the panelists, what recommendation do you have regarding job search strategy for panelists?
I can jump in. It's been a little bit since I have had to look for a job, but I would say go for everything. Anything that you think you might be interested in, try it. Interviewing experience is never wasted. And you could meet someone or realize that you are really into it, or it could open another door that you didn't even know was there. So I wouldn't shy away from any experience. And if you're on the fence, I say just go for it. And obviously just prepare before the conversations. Make sure you know everything from top down on your resume, about the company. You can predict what questions they may ask you, and just come prepared and be yourself, and you should be all fine.
Yeah, that sounds great.
May I add to that?
Mhm.
I love that too, because I was going to say the same thing as well. I mean, when I graduated college, sales was the absolute last thing I was going to engage in. Like I said, I always want to just have more of an analyst type of role like Justin. I envied what he went into. But after I joined Ameris Mortgage and I started working as a loan originator, I really realized that this is something I have a passion for, and that's something I'm actually good at. And I think it just goes back to the competitive edge with wrestling that I had. So at the end of the day, like Melissa was saying, be engaged in anything that you want to do, and you never know what you're going to like until you do it.
From Teresa, Anthony, did you feel burnt out at all during your courses?
No, so I didn't feel burnt out. I think find a passion for what you want to do. I mean, I took mostly, and I did economics and psychology because I did have a passion for both of them, and all the extracurriculars I was very passionate about as well. So at the end of the day, I mean, there were times where it was stressful and, it was hard to manage everything, but having that organization and really, setting the goals that you want on a day-to-day basis, don't look at it all in one step. Same with the paper. When you guys start writing the paper, you're going to see it as one piece right in the beginning, but really just break it down. And that's just how I went through and finished out my college. I really broke down day by day, and then it really just worked out in my favor.
Thank you. Serina or Melissa, what are some tips you have for building your resume and what helps separate you from the rest?
So when I first started out, I put I put my student association experience on there, econ, I put my research paper on there. Any items that you can, and make it specific. Don't be specific about what you did in your class or in your work experience, in your paper, what you research. I think those being specific is going to help you stand out. If you use just your general words, everyone's using those words. Use the action phrases like you led this, you partnered with this, you work well, instead of just saying I work well with people. Or if you have certain skill sets like, customer focus, client relationships, things like that. Like people always hear about your time management, you have time management skills, and you have Microsoft Excel skills. What are the skills that you have that can differentiate you a little bit? So I think just be specific will help. Mel, can you opine on that?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think when I think about my resume, I put hours and hours and hours into it. I worked with someone who was in the econ club with me who was a year older. I think we met every Saturday for I don't know how long to go over it. And I made a bunch of different copies and I made sure that it was perfect. I think that's really a way to stand out. If you're in a pile of 100, 200 resumes and they look at yours and they see something's off, something's not centered, you spelled something wrong, that could be it. So it's really just making sure that it's presentable enough. And to Serina's points, has those keywords that might be pulled out just to get you in the room, because then once you're in the room, you can do all the talking and your resume doesn't have to speak for itself anymore.
Thank you. Those are really good ideas. Serina, Sabrina has a question for you. I'm invited to do a video interview for the Global Private Bank summer analyst position at JP Morgan. Any tips for interview prep and things I should consider talking about?
Yes, for sure. So if your video interview is anything like mine, just to be prepared, I entered a video chat room and it was actually a recorded session. Nobody was on the other side of it. So 3 questions, like, well, one question would pop up. You have 30 seconds to answer this question, and then it starts recording you, and you have 90 seconds to give an answer. So, but these were all kind of like soft skill questions, mostly like, talk about an obstacle and how you overcame it, like those the type of things. Now, if it is a face-to-face interview, which that assuming that might be the next step if you go forward with the video interview, you should study company information and you should study the role. Always know what you're going. If you're sitting there for an interview and you're interviewing for a role, you should know exactly what you're doing and why do you want this role? Why should we? What separates you from other candidates? Like those type of things, and then have points that you can talk to about your experience and your skill sets. What do you bring to the table? How can you make this role, but how do you add value? So I would prepare that way. And then actually, from what I remember from being at Oneonta, Oneonta has some really good resources. I think they even had like video interviews and practice stuff that you could do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there is definitely some resources the school has, and I think I did a couple of practice video interviews, and I think they even have somebody you can interview with. Career development center, someone is saying. So utilize those resources, and know your resume. Nobody knows yourself better than you, so you shouldn't tell your resume almost like a story. Tell a story about yourself. Don't read off your resume. Anybody can read it. So tell me a story. Also, prepare an elevator speech. Give me who are you in about 30 seconds? 30 seconds to a minute.
Yeah, those are really good tips. Thank you. Okay, question from Raphael. Do you feel that this could be for any of the panelists? Do you feel that one experience in particular had been most beneficial to you while in school? Do you feel it has directly applied to your current role? Mine is Serina, who shared her knowledge of Apple, unless she has another.
I can jump in again. Let's see. I think so. Outside of business, I was on the volleyball team, and I think being involved in something doesn't necessarily have to be sports, but being involved in something that's structured and gives you that leadership experience is really great because that translates professionally. So you show that you can have this experience in an outside setting and you can bring it with you. I think from a business standpoint, I would say probably the Federal Reserve class was the most impactful for me. It was an awesome opportunity. I learned so much. And as I was mentioning earlier about those real life experiences, that really helped me as I was going into my career to have that experience standing up in front of a panel of judges and talking and getting comfortable with the material that I was presenting. Those communication skills and public speaking skills are something that I really carried with me as I started my career.
Thank you. Yeah. Justin asked, this will be for any of the panelists as well, is it okay to be scared after college if you're unsure what you want? How do you find out what you want to do and what helps you get there?
I can get this one started. So for me, I was fortunate enough to have a job lined up before I left college. Although I was, very nervous to start, my first, professional experience, out working full time. But, I knew a lot of people who did not come out of college with a job right away, and they did have that transition and search, and they told me a lot about their experiences. Now looking at it today, I know people that didn't start right away with a position lined up who are in amazing jobs and positions where they're incredibly happy. So I would say that if you are fortunate enough to have one lined up, that's fantastic. But if you are unable to for some reason, do not get discouraged. I think, looking at all these people around me who are, so happy in where they're at, it really didn't matter right away if there was that kind of searching around point. And I think it gives you kind of the opportunity to be a little more picky, especially if you're graduating into today's job market, where it just seems like, employees have a lot of leverage and power because there's just some massive hiring going on right now. I think, you can really take the time to look what's out there and see, what would work best for you. And I think especially we have so much going remote nowadays, and you have so much flexibility where you don't have to apply for jobs in the same state. You can look globally and you can look abroad too. I mean, there's just so many opportunities. So I would say, be optimistic, because I think, the job market right now is really, really good. And even if you're having some trouble right in the beginning, it's not going to matter a year or two down when you end up landing a position that you really like.
Yeah, thank you.
I do just want to add on to that really quick, though. It is very, very normal to be scared after college. That is so normal. And to not know what you want to do is normal too. That's absolutely fine. I still don't even know what I want to do. You're figuring this out as you go. You're gaining experience. That's just take it one step at a time. That's all okay. Just start, like Mel said, figure out what you like and what you don't like. They'll point you in the right direction. But even when your first job is not your last job, you're probably going to have plenty of other jobs and career changes as well. So don't be nervous. Like it's that feeling is real, and it happens to everyone.
Thank you. Kelly asks, this can be open for anybody. As a freshman, as a business econ major, what's the biggest piece of advice you can give for my future years?
Guess I'll kick it off. I think, and we kind of touched on it too, utilize your resources. I know one thing I wish I would have done earlier on is utilize my professors and advisors to help me kind of guide me through to what you wanted to do. But I think in terms of coming in as a freshman, really just utilize your professors, utilize, even like Serina was saying, there's interview help, there's everything that you could think of. Oneonta is a great place that has a lot of resources out there, and there's a lot of funding for it. So really dig in, utilize your classmates as well, see what they're doing, really team up. And then at the end, you guys will really meet a common goal. You'll find out what you like.
Thank you. Next question is by Olivia. This question could be open for anybody. What do you recommend to do to help to be more confident in this area of study?
If we're talking about economics as the area of study, I think our, professors that we have at Oneonta were, fantastic. And I think that's what really got me into the subject. I was a psychology major when I first started, and I wasn't, too committed to that. And I tried various other classes. I took 111 with Dr. Siriani, and I just thought it was awesome. And I, kept taking more and more classes and eventually switched my major. There's so many, I think, day to day, if you can connect, what you're learning in class to the real world and how it might apply, I think it becomes, so much more interesting. I think economics is a great example because you can flip on the TV and they'll be talking about, what the Fed's going to do with rates, or, how the market's changing based on everything that's going on in our, macroeconomic environment. So I would say, just going back to kind of what Anthony said, seek out the resources that are available to you. I think including that being the professors that we have, feel free to ask them questions and take advantage of their office hours, which is just so kind of, priceless to have that one-on-one time where you can kind of, get a better, firmer understanding from, their perspective, their research too. I think that definitely apply to, connecting the dots between what you're studying and the real world. So yeah, take advantage of what the school offers and find what interests you and pursue that.
I'm just going to piggyback off of that and say that, increase your exposure to the topic. So if there's something that you know that you're interested in, put yourself in positions to learn more, whether it's dedicate 20, 30 minutes every day to read up on it, or to, read the news, find a podcast that talks about it and listen to the podcast, have conversations with people, whether it's people, your peers or your professors, just ask, open up that dialogue, or go to experts and maybe shadow someone, give yourself that opportunity, look for different ways that you can immerse yourself into the topic and into the knowledge that maybe doesn't seem as daunting, so you can slowly just build up your confidence with the topic.
This is awesome. This was all wonderful advice. And I know there were a couple of questions left in the chat, but for the sake of time and not taking up the time of all of our panelists, we are going to call it. And we are going to close with just some closing remarks. But I highly encourage all of the students that are here, please find the alum on LinkedIn or through some other outlet. Make sure that you connect with them, ask them your questions directly, especially if maybe you're not super comfortable, putting in a big chat like this. But thank you for our panelists for being here, for answering our questions, and for supporting current students the same way that I'm sure you were supported by previous alumni ahead of us. Thank you to the faculty for being here, taking the time out to come and connect with the alumni again, and for advising their projects and thus advising ours and all of our endeavors. And thank you to Michelle Hansen and the Alumni Engagement Office for helping us make this possible every time that we do it. And also thank you to the students for showing up. We know that this is pretty early in the semester, but you know what? We're glad that you came. We hope that you come again next Wednesday for our special edition, and again in March and April. We hope to keep connecting with alumni, and these awesome panelists were amazing. I'm so happy we were able to start our semester this way. I'm going to pass it to Dr. K next in case he has any other closing remarks, but thank you all again.
I don't really have too much to share, but just want to thank all of you, the panelists, and everyone here for participating in this event, and as well for giving such a useful advice. I think the program started because maybe for selfish reasons for myself, because when I was a undergraduate student, I felt so lost, and I'm hoping I can give a gift that I never had as a student, as an undergraduate. So thank you all for sharing this valuable information.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. So this is pretty much the close of our program. Again, if your name is not what it would be in the Oneonta registry, message that to Justin Almanzar and or Michelle Hansen. And I'm already losing people. So have a nice night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank you.